me just take up the opportunity to present that screen to you.
Thanks, Chandan. A very warm good evening to each one of the Governing Council members of CBEII to the first Governing Council meeting. Uh, Being the designated chairman, I take the opportunity to thank each one of you for getting on board to this organization, which is a new thought process of a revolution to come within India. And more importantly, I think the essence of the time and the vast experience that each one of you bring to this governing council is actually what we intend to take ahead with each one of your guidance for this sector. And with that as a roadmap, we have put up a brief agenda within the time frame that we have allocated today. We want to introduce each of the members who are part of the governing council so that we have a face behind a name and a voice behind a name. And also along with that, we would come to each one of you in an order so that we can have your initial views and comments recorded. And jointly, that would become the basis of the guidance for the executive committee to take on the work. So from a structure that we have formed, the governing council is the guiding force behind the work that CBEII is mandated to do. And the executive committee would become the hands and feet on the ground to kind of execute that direction which is given. So each one of us, our role here would be more fiduciary and to review the activities and guide the council or the executive committee to do that work over a period of time. Since it's a new body, the first round of appointments have been on a nomination basis for a period of 2 years. And again, I take this opportunity to formally thank each one of you and your organizations for allowing this to happen. Each one of you represent, besides the individual capacity, your organizations as well. And I think it is really commendable that each one of you have got onboarded to CBEII to kind of take a collective vision ahead. So a big thank you for that. And here is where we would seek support both individually and also from your organizations to further the cause of sustainable bioenergy, the utilization of biomass, so that we can create a shared value right up till the farmer in the strata. And I think that's the intent of CBEII to get formed as a collective voice for the entire spectrum of biomass bioenergy industry in India. This is the first of its kind. We did not have anything on the entire biomass bioenergy spectrum. There were some bodies only doing biomass to electricity, but I think this is something which is path breaking of what, again, a big thank you to each one of you. We have been collectively able to at least form this body. With that, I go to the introduction part of the. So we have 5 founding members. I am one of them. We have Mr. Chandan Goswami. We have Mr. Gagandeep Bakshi, who is the head of advisory in Telecap. We have Mr. Saurabh Ghosh. He's the General Secretary, Community Friendly Movement. And the 5th one is Mr. Suhash Bakshi. He is the co-founder of Biofuel Circle. So this was where the initial thought process emanated. And then we took it upon ourselves as 5 individuals to reach out to industry captains and associations, bodies with this thought process. And after good about 6 months of time, I think we then came up to a structure where CBEII got formed. The first member onboarded in the governing council, Dr. Vibha Dhawan. She is the present incumbent Director General TERI. Again, a very warm good evening, ma'am, and thanks so much for joining this first council meeting. Dr. Govinda Rajula Chintala, the incumbent chairman NABARD. Again, a big thank you to him for actually joining. And I think I made a couple of calls and and had to pull him in, but thank you so much. And I think he brings in the lever for the farming community to get connected with the thought process which is going to emanate. He's also joined this call. So thank you, sir, for joining the first call out of your busy schedule. Next. We have Dr. Mrs. Praveen Dhameja. She is currently the advisor, Skill Council for Green Jobs, doing some amazing work in formulation of skill jobs about skilling the sector per se, and a lot of work here has happened wherein we now have profiles for various activities for green jobs which are there, and I think she is leading that very prominently across India. So thank you, ma'am, for agreeing to join this. We have Mr. Gaurav Kapoor. He is the head of capital team of the British High Commission from FCDO. Again, FCDO is doing some amazing work for the relations between India, UK for funding the sector across the biomass, bioenergy value chain, sustainable goal development goals enhancement, and leading the way with various capital being available for the sector. I think, again, a proud privilege that he consented to join this particular organization. We have Dr. Preeti Jain. She is the Director Business Development and Government Relations with LanzaTech. Again, brings vast amount of experience of sustainable business practices that LanzaTech is doing globally and within India, and also brings in the expertise of the patient engagement that bodies need to do with government relations and regulators to be able to ultimately achieve, I think, the goals which we would set out. So thank you, ma'am, again for joining CBI. We have Mr. Prabodha Acharya, a very illustrious name, the head of sustainability for JSW Group of Companies. He leads the sustainability practices, one of the largest corporates within India. And the fact that he is part of the governing council leads and brings the sanctity of the corporate India to actually adopting these sustainable practices, the SDGs, with heart, mind, and capital to be put towards it. So thank you again, Mr. Pramod Acharya. We have Dr. Pramod Chaudhary. I think his name would not need any introduction on the biofuel segment and one of the leading names globally. I don't think he has joined the call today, but we did send him an invite, and he has consented to join in an advisory capacity. So he was categorical here to mention that, but we would draw on his experience also to guide us. We have Mr. Parvez Umregar. He is the managing director and CEO of Ever Enviro Resource Management. Again, they are a committed fund, a platform to work in the sustainable project space, doing a lot of projects out of the Green Growth Fund, out of the NIF. They have large corporations who have committed towards sustainable projects. And I think what he brings is a resource capital agency which is committed to sustainable projects. Professor S. Dasappa sir, needless to say, he spearheads Indian Institute of Science engagement towards biomass, bioenergy, sustainable projects, technology development over the last 3 to 4 decades. And as long as I have been in the last decade plus in this segment, I think a very guiding factor and guiding force, very positively available to engage with anybody in the biomass bioenergy sector. So thank you so much, sir, again for joining this governing council and for your time. We have Dr. Ashok Haldia. He's the ex-managing director and CEO of PTC Financial Services. He has joined the call. Good evening to you, sir. He has again been a big advocate of biomass, bioenergy, sustainable development, good industry practices, corporate governance. He has been on the board of ICAI. He has been writing very profitably across various newspapers and publications on corporate governance, on business ethics. And I think he brings a large amount of stability and governance factors which he would bring to the discussions that we would have. Again, sir, a very warm good evening and welcome. And last but not the least, I think age-wise, the youngest amongst us, but the passion that I have seen in the last couple of years that he is having in the sustainable development, compressed biogas, sustainable businesses, Mr. Varun Bhagwat Karad, and uniquely the energy that I see in him, maybe because of his age, but every day he knocks on some door, and many amongst us here, and kind of pushes us to do more in the segment. So good to have young minds also in the governing council to be contributing and participating. And I think they would be the leading light to take things ahead further. So that's the governing council of 12 members that we have. And we have kept it at 12 and also attempted across segments of financial institutions, technical institutions, think tanks, business organizations to have a mix and consulting firms to have a mix of representation so that each segment has their voice heard, and then a collective decision could be taken. I'll just again take a brief to run through the executive committee members so that the governing council members are also aware of them. We have Chandan Goswami here who would be taking things to the executive committee. Mr. Suhas Bakshi, he is currently the MD and CEO of Biofuel Circle. Mr. Saurabh Ghosh, the General Secretary of CFM. Mr. Gagandeep Bakshi, the Head of Business and Investment Banking, Avishkar Intelegraph. Mr. Anant Bansal, who is the former chairman of Chhattisgarh State Electricity Board and also the former CEO of CREDA and HAREDA. So he is there as part of the Executive Council. I think the name here, Mr. Shailendra Shukla. Yeah, next, please. Mr. Janendra Kumar Jain. He is the CEO of Forbes Marshall Forbes Vinca Group, a large boiler manufacturer headquartered out of Pune, where a joint venture between Vinca Brussels and Forbes Marshall is in place in India, and they bring solid fuel boiler technology to India. We have Mr. Vibhash Garg from PwC India. He is the head of the practice of renewable energy, vast experience of government engagement, policy advocacy, project development advisory, and again, thank you to him and PwC for as a structure getting on board as an executive committee member. Mr. Anand Bansal, one of the leading biomass densification plant promoters across India. So he's there representing the densification industry. Mr. Amrit Khattar, the leading equipment manufacturer in India towards the densification side, and he's here for representing the densification manufacturing industry. We have Mr. Milan Patke. He is the ex-executive director Biofuels Bharat Petroleum, recently superannuated, and he is a voice representing both segments of biofuels, compressed biogas, ethanol, second generation, first generation, and the way the challenges that the government sector PSUs have faced or the industry interaction. And I think he brings a good lever there. And with that, currently we have 10 members on the executive committee. And even on the executive committee, we have a thought process of having 1 or 2 members more, which if we have them joining, we would bring them to your notice. Now, on the charter brief of CBEII, we have shared this earlier as well, but happy to bring some points here. Chandan, if I can hand over to you to take this ahead, please.
Sure. Thanks, Colonel. So I think all members, I think you are fairly aware that what we intend to achieve through CBEII is to give a singular balanced voice to both industry participants, but also all the other stakeholders which are linked to the biomass industry. And we would like to keep the intention has been that we keep the representations across the governing council, where you all give us the vision and the leadership to sort of move forward in that direction, but also have an equal, fairly spread representation from various stakeholders in the executive council. And overall, we are able to touch both what the biomass industry today sort of represents in India, but also what it holds for the future. And therefore, we consciously have kept in mind that there should be, not only let's say the farmer community, which becomes part of it, but also the building blocks of the value chain, which comes in biomass, be it the aggregation business, from there, taking it to industry applications of thermal energy, to further value addition, which may happen in the form of converting it into gas, liquid fuels, and potentially even into, let's say, hydrogen in the future. And when we look at that sector, the aspects or the stakeholders are not limited to only sponsors or industry participants which come directly involved into the sector, but there are equally important contributors to the sector, which could be banks, financial institutions, legal firms, obviously not to miss out the technology players, the equipment manufacturers. So if you do not bring in, or if you don't intend to bring in all the entire ecosystem on board a single platform, the discussions, the validation tends to remain lopsided. We intend to then try to solve the challenges of the sector from only one aspect, rather than trying to bring it multifaceted in nature. So the objective has therefore been also been translated into how the uh, organization has been structured, where you have equal participation in subcommittees that are going to be formed here onwards. And each subcommittee is then able to sort of bring specific requirements of their particular aspect onto both the executive committee and from there onwards to the governing council. So very quickly, we have also have three different committees, like Colonel Ahuja just explained. So there's an aspect that the founding members committee needs to perform, which essentially, as you may read out, is to sort of create the background ecosystem for the council, for the confederation to sort of operate. Operating the main offices, setting up the teams that are required to actually operate the office, create a CEO in time to come, create the ecosystem of administration, of reportings, of etc., so that all members, because we all respect your time, we understand that each of us has got their own professional time to be, which needs, most of your attention right now. So therefore, to keep you a lot more abreast as to what the confederation needs to do, that's a job that the founding committee members are intending to bring in the ecosystem. So while obviously the direction is set forward by the governing council in terms of the vision, in terms of our mission, in terms of deciding the annual plan, the actual on the ground works would be managed by the founding committee. So specifically coming on to how we envisage, and we are happily in your sort of views that we would like to take from you. Please do suggest if there's any aspect that we've probably out of oversight not covered. You would want that the governing council members' role or activity should either be enhanced or relooked at. But largely, the intention is that the governing council members, bring in the independence, the objectivity, and essentially keep guiding the organization that it does not waver away from its core intended objective. And that is essentially to bring in and develop the biomass, bioenergy segment in India, hopefully beyond India, but clearly, supporting every ecosystem that operates inside it. So at any given point of time, if the members think that, the confederation is not walking down its path, or the path being taken may not end up being as productive, that's the exact sort of guidance we'll continuously seek each of you. So again, specificities, the governing council members will decide upon approving, amending, or rejecting the annual plan of activities, which is formed by the executive committee. As we begin with, since it's a new entity, we have nominated members to the executive committee. In time to come, we intend to have, with a much larger base and a participation, intend to make it as democratic as possible. So there would be elections that will happen till such time whenever the membership of any executive committee member either lapses or he chooses to voluntarily move out. And when we bring in a new member, we would like to seek your approvals, your thought processes. The governing council members will pass out and approve the entire financial plan for a year in time to come. They would have stronger roles of, like was mentioned, to play the fiduciary activity. If the council of the confederation seems to have challenges around disclosure, etc., it's completely in the right of the governing council members to take up such matters. We intended to, the objective of creating an executive committee was that while we get directions from the governing council, we appreciate that you would not be able to give in a very large amount of your time to look after day-to-day activities, to look after events, to look after representations to be made, to various policymakers. And that's exactly where the executive committee would tend to spend a lot of their energies and time. They will be more actively involved together with the office of CBEII to sort of create the roadmap for a year, come out with specific events, seminars, workshops, deciding which aspects need to be highlighted further. And then all of this in a single package comes to the governing council for your clearances. But basically, the entire annual plan, designing, preparing budgets, etc., is a part which will be created by the executive committee. So that's largely, members, the three committee functions that we have for ourselves. Colonel, would you like to take it forward from here?
Yeah, thanks so much. And then, so being cognizant of everybody's time here and the time we have slotted for this, I think we can go over to each member for a couple of minutes for their initial remarks, which we would like to record, and also comments on what Chandan and me have presented, so that if there are any suggestions coming here, we could take note of them as well. In the order that the names are flashing on my screen, I would take it up in that format. So Dr. Ashok Haldia, sir, over to you first, please.
Very good afternoon, Monish ji and the ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, a great pleasure for me to be associated with Monish ji after a gap of a decade. And Mr. Monish has done a remarkable work in the area of bioenergy and biomass. I have been advocate of biomass energy, the renewable solar and power and the biomass for last 12 years. We were pioneer in promoting and financing the renewables, the biomass, the solar and the wind in the country. And we innovated a large number of financing instruments, the products, and possibly the first financer to the leading the wind and solar power project developer in the country today. Unfortunately, while we took a big lead in financing the biomass, developing and promoting biomass industries, we could not succeed. We financed both equity and debt to a large number of, and we thought that we would create a chain of projects throughout the country. Not create, but promote development of a chain of biomass projects throughout the country, because we thought biomass is not only energy, but it's a solution to the rural economy, the problems that the rural economy or agroeconomy is facing in the country. But unfortunately, we burnt our hands and we could not work out. And Monish ji, no, we did work out as to where lies the problem. We did work out. We know that the generation of energy is only if I can use at this distinguished platform, is only one of the offshoot of the entire bioenergy. What is the managing the entire value chain is more important. And so we started focusing on how to develop that chain, and we worked with some international companies, the joint ventures, and thought that if they come India and they participate in development of those value chain. Unfortunately, it has not picked up. I was approached by those who matter in the government and prepared a paper for them as to how can the biomass can help in reviving and reactivizing the rural economy in the country. Somehow everybody did realize that biomass is important, but then possibly it didn't, I mean, converted into a concrete action in the manner the wind and solar has been. To me, biomass has far more potential, far more viable, and far more greater role to play in the Indian economy. So to me, the first task is possibly Monish is doing for last many years is to sensitize those who matters and every stakeholders that look, biomass is there, bioenergy is there, and that's highly value. Uh, can add value to the energy and to the rural economy. That's one thing possibly we need to do. There are various ways if we can strategize as to what, how, and what way we need to proceed. But that's to me important. But in order to generate the confidence, we need to look at the entire value chain. We know it's viable, but then it somehow is not feasible and practical. We need to look at where lies the problem and how to make that viable. Monishji, I thought these are the two things possibly we can work upon. I know there is a paucity of time, but I have a passion for the biomass, and for sure for last 12 years that 10 years ago I did try but could not succeed. I'm sure by associating with this August platform, we should be able to carry this through. And maybe at a later stage, I'll contribute as to what could be those strategic options, how to bring forward the stakeholders, and how to carry biomass, possibly far more important than the solar and the wind that we have today. Thank you, Monishji.
Thank you so much, sir, for your remarks, and we do take note of them. Thank you so much again for being part of CBEII. I next go to Chairman NABARD, Shri Chintalaji, please. Sir, over to you, please.
Thank you, Manishji, and it's a great thing that you have drawn me into this governing council. And I know that the discussions which we used to have as to really what to do with this kind of a biomass and others, actually we are seized of this issue for quite some time, because now as various estimates put different kind of things, but I think we have more than 500 to 600 million tons of biomass which is generated from agriculture itself, and the time has come to make this biomass as a kind of a beneficial product and a profitable product to the farmer. Otherwise, actually, it is being thrown out without any kind of a much purpose. And the way actually you people, that is particularly yours and also other members actually whom I have seen in that executive committee, most of them are involved in this one for quite some time. The way the entire thing is being looked into, and you are working on it for more than a decade, I think the time has come now for the institutions to come out with kind of a products where one has to involve the self-help groups, one has to involve the joint liability groups, one has to involve maybe the farmers and agricultural laborers at large to make this thing as a mass movement. Actually, we have seen in case of self-help group movement, which we started maybe more than 30 years back, where when that time more than 90% of the women were not having the bank account even. So now actually nearly it has become 100%, because over a period of time so many changes have happened after that movement has started. So now the similar kind of a thing has to come for the biomass usage. I'm not going, because biomass is being used in some form or other, either it is being thrown out, it is being burnt, or some places it is being made into briquettes, baling and so many things. But at the same time, there should be kind of an organized effort. There should be an amount of a communication with the stakeholder, that is the farmer, as to really how he can do the things for the benefit of himself and also to the society at large. And this is again a big industry, because if you are producing 500 plus million tons of biomass, I think that converting to the energy, actually it's a very big kind of an industry. So now, as we discussed earlier, that we want to come out with the kind of a bankable model, so that at the ground level, maybe at the industry level, probably you can have that maybe as a kind of an aggregated approach, because once the entire biomass is baled or maybe made into the briquettes to a kind of a preliminary level at some level at the village, and subsequently you can aggregate it and you can make it into a maybe much more compressed or whatever it is you call. and ultimately delivered to the market. So now that so the basic issue which that time after discussion with you and the discussion with the department, actually I deputed a few of our people to have discussion with you that as to really how the bankable models have to be there for setting up these shredding and the baling units, and also working capital for construction, maintenance, transportation, and storage facilities. Because now these are the issues which we may have to look into it at a broader perspective with the farmer in view. Because ultimately, somebody at the ground level has to invest in all these kinds of preliminary structures, which may entail some cost to them. And right now, the bankers are absolutely unaware as to really how these things are happening. Probably whenever somebody is financing, they may be financing based on your net worth or maybe your link with the bank or your relation with the bank, rather than financing it as a kind of a product that has been tested and also the project models were prepared. So that is why actually we have to work a little more closely on this one, so that to make it into a kind of a mass movement, we have to work something more. And as Halia Saab was telling that for quite some time, actually, if you look into the solar, wind, and also the biomass, solar and wind, because of maybe the some kind of a mechanism which they have devised, in some places they have broken even, and some places still actually they are still struggling. But at the same time, in case of biomass, there is a mixed response, because I know like a few of our colleagues who went out of NABARD some time back, they established some units in Chhattisgarh on biomass, and actually their experience was not so encouraging. It's not because of anything, because after some time, actually that supply chain of this biomass ceased to exist. This is what actually they told. Because the moment this kind of a factory comes, probably somebody else also is trying to do this. So there should be kind of a sustainable supply chains to be developed. So for that, we need to organize the producers, that is here, maybe the farmers only, the farmers and the farm laborers to come into a kind of a supply chain, and which again become the value chain. So that is where actually I'm looking for such kind of a thing. So now this is being a preliminary meeting, so I just don't want to maybe further go further into this one, but definitely I would like to have maybe some intense discussions with a few of you who got such kind of a great depth of knowledge, so that really how we can do this thing, organizing the cluster level awareness programs at the ground level, then all field demonstration pilot projects that should be there in few places, then subsequently some kind of events to be done, and maybe these things actually are also required once we have to make it into a very big kind of an enterprise. And I look at it as a kind of a bankable kind of a product also, because ultimately at the end of the day, in case if this biomass is yielding even some 3,000 or 5,000 rupees per acre to the farmer, I think that is the way of doubling of the farmer's income, which contributes it, and we will certainly look into it. And I'm extremely happy that now the interactions with that august body, actually the way the experts are drawn, definitely is going to enrich our knowledge. And the moment that is done, actually, we can interact well with the bankers, we can interact with the other civil society organizations as to how to make this one into a real kind of a thing where not even a single maybe piece of biomass is wasted without giving any profit to the farmer. So this is what my initial remarks. And thanks again, Manish ji, and also other members for inviting me to this governing council.
Thank you so much, sir. Much appreciate, and we take note of your initial comments, and I think each one of your would be available to contribute towards your organization forming various roadmap for the country to take ahead. Next, I'll request Dr. Vibha Dhawan ma'am, please.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you so much. In fact, I'm just enjoying all the discussions and the points which were raised. The work which you're doing, I'll say it's unparalleled, and one is looking at commercialization of various technologies. The way I personally feel this forum can play a very important role is also to bring technologies to our country, as well as whatever is being done here, taking to the neighboring countries. So this particular forum, therefore, when we are looking at, we should also look at that what is going to be the outreach of all these activities. So that should play a very important role. And then coming specific to the role that is to be played by the governing council, and it's already listed, that in a way it is that what should be the plan of this particular organization. I'll say to move a step ahead, and that is like something like biomass for all, and one is looking at what are the changes which are required to create an enabling environment, what kind of policy changes should be there. And one has to look biomass in totality. It is not a waste, it is a wealth. How best to utilize that? And what are the, in a way, maybe one also needs to do things on research side of it. What kind of research is required so that the wealth actually, the waste actually can be used. And many times we have short-sighted kind of a vision that it is not worth it. But because we are only looking at the expenses which are related to collecting the biomass and then processing it, and we forget in the bargain that what is going to be the impact on air quality if we don't use it properly. So somewhere we have to link it with other issues, such as like if we are converting into compost, then what is it that one is getting in terms of agriculture output or reduction on the entire your bill on artificial fertilizers, and indirectly on human health. But surely the open burning of this biomass, which results in air pollution. So what are the health impacts? So therefore, the political will has to be there in terms of collection of biomass in a proper way and research so that you maximize the usage of this biomass. So therefore, this organization should become the apex body to make these suggestions to the government as well as to the industry, and also work towards industry academia partnerships and so on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And leading the apex body think tank for Government of India in TERI, I think we absolutely echo your thoughts over here, and we would also obviously seek these thoughts to which would definitely emanate across the regulatory forum and government bodies. So thank you so much, ma'am, for your remarks. Next, I would go to Professor Dasappa, sir. Over to you, please. Dasappa, sir, you are on mute. You need to just.
Thank you, Manish ji, and it's a pleasure to be part of this consortium. And for somebody who has spent more 3 decades looking into biomass as a solution to many of the energy requirements in this country, I think most of the time we used to come across where is biomass was the one typical question which used to happen. While we also attempted putting everything onto a biomass atlas to show that there is enough biomass, I think still there was a big gap between what the so-called administrators were looking or the industry was looking. To some extent, I think over the last at least 4 or 5 years or close to a decade, things have changed a bit, and involving various industries has made a big change. In fact, for somebody who has looked at even from Chula to a power generation package which were technology transferred across the globe, we used to face this issue with respect to bringing biomass on a level playing platform along with other renewables. You go talk to anybody, the first renewable which comes to their mind is solar. I just give an example saying that if somebody had used the same yardstick what was there during the earlier stage when 17 rupees per kilowatt hour was really apportioned for a kilowatt of solar energy, biomass, if it had even a fraction of that to be coming into biomass, probably we would have done much better. Unfortunately, that has never happened. I think it's a time that during the initial remarks, I think several sectors were added and people have been looking at biomass. It's just not only the resource, it probably is something which is beyond a resource for energy. And this platform with comprising of all the necessary catalysts for carrying out this thing, right from somebody who can get into the policy, getting into research, getting into industry. I think all of them being there with the executive committee extending their arms towards reaching out to people. I think we should be able to do a much better job right now with many programs, many missions coming on board. I believe that we need to position ourselves to see at least there could be a level playing field with other renewables. Otherwise, I think with biomass again we will do, and I think what it was brought about, we should bring in the value addition. India being agro-based economy, we cannot forget that residues will be there, and with residues we can bring in value addition. I think at this point of time with the hydrogen mission coming on board, and whenever you talk about hydrogen mission, just to say that they do not know that there are only two naturally available compounds which are there in nature carrying hydrogen atoms. One is water, another one is biomass. I think everybody is going towards water. I think here there is biomass which can also do an equal amount of contribution to the entire economy. And as I've moved across various sectors, right from small power generation to various things, technology probably we have done from generally which happens from north to south, we have done from south to north technology transfers. Unfortunately, we have not been able to make sure that that contribution is also part of this country and it should go to this country. I think this forum should also create necessary enabling mechanisms for something which can translate whatever has happened within this country to reach out to the masses. I think we would be more than happy to bring all our experience on board to see that where we can lead ourselves into making sure that biomass also becomes a sort of a component when people look at renewable energy as a source. Thank you very much. I'd be very happy to contribute at all levels. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dasappa sir. Really enlightening, and we expect the 3 decades of experience to guide us on various aspects of technology and what we could take to government. Thank you so much, sir. Next, I go to Mr. Gaurav Kapoor. Gaurav, over to you, please.
Thanks a lot, Manish. I feel very privileged and honored to be a part of this very accomplished initial set of the Governing Council. So, thank you for that, and a delight to be here with everybody. You've set out the purpose of this body very clearly, and I think that's really important because it needs to be a collective voice for the whole spectrum of biomass and bioenergy industry in India. Of course, this is a very complex supply chain. And from a development perspective, it has links to climate, air pollution, health, farmer incomes, and value addition to the economy and raising incomes and development of India more broadly. So we do think it's a really important sort of industry that has also transformed itself in the last couple of years, as some of the other panelists have said, or the Governing Council members have said. But I think it's important that we figure out, what does success look like for the industry? And, how does CBEII and the GC measure our own success? So, what are the ways that we will measure our success, say, in 6 months or a year? Now, in terms of the substantive sort of industry bits, I do agree with Dr. Haldia. I think we need to establish biomass as a cleaner alternative fuel. I agree with also Dr. Chintala on the engaging the institutions and making sure there is training, knowledge sharing products, bankable products. I think that's very important. And agree with Dr. Dhawan on commercialization technologies, biomass for all, not waste but wealth, and with others as well. From our own perspective, I think we are usually an investor in clean technologies and also work with policymakers. And I think it's really important that there are different sort of views about the industry amongst different stakeholders in the industry, also perhaps among the GC members and in the policymakers. So I think it's important that we bring people to a common level of understanding in that sense to the current contemporary realities and within the overall ambition of the renewable energy sort of targets that the government has in that sense. So what we've done ourselves is to support the development of a white paper, a sort of a roadmap for the industry which sort of details out what the benefit of using biomass, bioenergy is. What are the policy incentives? What's the best practice and standards in India and also internationally? And then what does that mean for the future of the industry? So we are hoping, and I do think, there is an important role for this platform and for us to play with our insights and influence. And I'm aware that, Monish, you've shared the executive summary with the members, perhaps after consultations with the industry practitioners, because we do want to get the fulsome range of views, insights, so that it can be robust as a document. I think we can engage with policymakers and make sure that all the great ideas and suggestions that some of the other GC members are making, there is, the pen is put to paper, and then once we work with the policymakers, then we can really make sure that the policy framework around it is suitable for the industry to really thrive in that sense. So those are my opening sort of set of remarks, and I really appreciate your leadership, Monish, in bringing us all together to really make a difference to the sector and to the industry and to the country. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gaurav, for your remarks. Again, a big thank you to you and FCDO for funding such a kind of study and making it available across various stakeholders of public policy and body like CBEII, and thereby allowing us to share it with the Governing Council, the Executive Council members. We would request for one session of, say, let's about an hour. Whoever could join, we would take dates and time of the GC and the Executive Committee members, so that the presentation from OPM and PwC could happen, and more informed suggestions and decisions could come from the leading stalwarts of the industry. Thanks again so much, Gaurav. Next, I would go to Dr. Praveen Dhameja, madam, please.
Thank you very much, Colonel Ahuja, and good evening to all of you. I thank you for taking me on board, and also, the activity or the area in which I am involved currently, taking stock of that also, I'm very grateful to you. My association with bioenergy has been long back. In fact, I joined the Ministry for Bioenergy, and I had, I had the experience of implementing projects right from the use of biomass for cook stoves, then for biogas. And then I would say that my experience had said, in fact, Mr. Dasappa would also like to support me, that we had done projects with him where we took up villages which could be energized through only biomass. We had a limited success because technology at that time was not that ripe. I think he will agree with me. He was very much a part of those projects. And then I feel that the last mile connectivity, reaching out to people, that is the most important point. And I feel this confederation, where you have been focusing on the biomass supply chain, you have been reaching out to the farmer. And that is where I feel that the woman, the farmer, all have to be connected through this when we take up the use of biomass supply chain. Then capacity building, we were doing, whenever we did a program in the ministry, we had capacity building also as a main activity. But here in Skill Council of Green Jobs, I am focusing on capacity building for the biomass supply chain. I feel that in the projects we had done, the availability of the biomass, whether it was cow dung or whether it was in the form of agro-residue, that supply chain, biomass supply chain discontinuity was the biggest reason for failure of our projects. So biomass supply chain is something which we have to focus. And I would request you, in the Skill Council, we have studied the entire sector. In fact, we have submitted a report to CII also, where we focused on the biomass supply chain, what are the job roles, how these trainings and skillings can be taken up so that we can ensure that the biomass is available. We can have biomass exchange centers in the villages where we can ensure that the farmer or the person who is setting the plants or running the plants has knowledge about the availability of biomass, and also the aggregator, the collector, the storage, all these aspects are taken into mind, and the job roles or the qualification packs which we have developed for these, we need to train people how to do this in a better way, so that in the short time span which we have between two crops, we can have better results. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Praveen Dhameja, ma'am. I think the experience and the skill set documents which have been created by your organization would also be something which we would take ahead and seek your assistance over there. I know I'm conscious of time, so I'll run through ahead. Next with Dr. Prabodha Acharya, please.
Thank you, Manish. Good evening to all of you. First, a small correction, Manish. I'm Prabodha Acharya, not doctor.
My bad, sir. Thank you for that.
Not that many people get confused, but thank you very much. And I must congratulate you and Chandan, both whom I was interacting, for bringing such eminent personality to this confederation. It's fantastic. While I was listening to all my previous members, I was getting so much of enriched. Thank you for that. I think it's a wonderful initiative has been started by you and your team. I'll just uh, for the time constraint, I'll just keep my points short. That what I like to see our confederations should strive to. Couple of points. I think we need to re-establish the fact that biomass has a very important role in the energy transition of India. And we all know how important it is right now to have a right energy transition from fossil to renewables. So I completely agree with many of my previous speaker emphasizing the fact that people do not recognize biomass as an important role to play in energy transition. That's number one. Number two, we must establish a process, or we should work in the entire value chain. So how we can promote to work in the entire value chain of biomass. Third thing is that where I'll be personally interested that, scaling up is the success. And that is where industry plays a very important role in promoting that scale of applications of biomass, whether it is terms of thermal energy or electrical energy. So what are the means and ways we can bring in industry players to show that it is at the scale this can play? So that will support the point one, what I told about the energy transition. The last point is obviously very important to have the right advocacy. And if we can, I see, a couple of advocacy you have already started, and you have very eminent personality here in this governing council itself, but they need to be work in tandem. So these are the four expectations right now. Let me put forth, and I'll be happy to play any role that you would like me to contribute to this confederation. Thank you and all the best. I'm pleased to meet you.
Thank you, Prabodha Acharya ji, and thank you also for committing time ahead. So I think very much appreciated there as well. Next, I'll go to Dr. Preeti Jain, and I think I got the doctor part right here. So
absolutely right, but I think doctor is also from experience for sure. I think first, thanks for having Lanzatech on this prestigious forum, and we look forward to bring our expertise in the technology, also learn from this group of eminent experts. Having said that, I'm mindful of time also. From Lanzatech, I think there are 2 points I would like to underline and highlight, because a number of points have already been covered by GC members. What I have been hearing and what also has been one of objective of Lanzatech is maximizing biomass value. I think maximizing biomass value, when we talk about that, the role of technologies is very important. And through this forum, we would like to, advocate more about that, how technologies can play an important role in that direction. And I think from Lanzatech, again, I said, we would be happy to share more about those technologies and pathways. Another point I would like to underline here, and I heard from many of the members, is biomass in the long term, how we plan to use biomass in the long term. The way we see it in the short term, energy will be one of the outcome of biomass utilization. But we want value maximization out of biomass. We need more competitive products and, outcome of utilization of biomass. And we see that there need to be short-term and long-term priorities. Short-term priorities can focus on energy, fuels for road transport. But I think many of us are aware that in the long term, not too long term, we have a priority for biomass utilization in the aviation sector. India will be a party to CORSIA in 2027. And as of now, aviation sector doesn't have any other option except the biofuels. That should also be one of the point I think we should take up through this forum so that we can maximize the value out of biomass and also towards the chemicals. Because once the energy needs are met by renewables, then I think this biomass can go for the sustainable fuels and chemicals, providing more value out of it. And last point I would like to add is mostly, we talk about energy angle of biomass. We miss that climate part of it. That need to be propagated more and more to the policymakers. Biomass or torrefied biomass or biochar have a, very beautiful climate angle to it. We need some, very precise policy measures to take up with government, and we will be happy to support there. I think offline or with the focus group, I will be happy to discuss more about that and support this forum. Yeah, that's all at this point in time.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti, and much appreciate you, Professor Dasappa sir, specifically talking about the technology aspects and the forward downstream integration aspects, which will make what Chairman NABARD sir said, the sustainability of viability of projects to come for alternate. So I think it'll be a good work which we would continue to do and seek your cooperation over there. Next, I would go to Mr. Varun Karad. Again, a very budding entrepreneur working in various waste to energy utilization streams. And uniquely, that is coincidental, he's also the son of the Minister of State Finance. And I think that's where, at least for the time till the senior Mr. Karad, Dr. Karad is there, we will seek his expertise to get into the corridors of North and South Block. So Varun, over to you.
Thanks, Monish sir. Thanks for the extended introduction, but I would prefer to be known as Varun. Just a quick, I'll just take 30 seconds and to build on what everyone has said. First point is in terms of building this space, and I would like to build on what Chairman NABARD sir said. That for coming up with products in terms of bankable products, there is three things which bankers will look for. One is the feedstock security. The other one is technology, which Preeti ma'am addressed. And the third thing is the offtake guarantee for the fuels, which the government has addressed. And what everyone I can see over here is addressing, and there is some sort of ambiguity in terms of feedstock guarantee. And this is where we should bring policy intervention to focus on. And once these three things are in place, that is when the market forces will take over and the industry will start booming on its own. So I think as a focus, we should divide our focus into three. One is short term, which is like immediate things like, like subsidies or something like that for the short term processes, a midterm range goal and a long term range goal. And I have certain ideas. Of course, I'll discuss them with the focus group over the next few months and build on these ideas. And I think equity in this sector is not a problem. We have Mr. Gaurav Kapoor over here. They bring in a lot of equity into our projects for this kind of projects. In the country, what is lacking is the debt structure, which is a big pain point for industries and startups and companies like ours. I think if you're able to address this feedstock issue by policy intervention, particularly by state governments, we will be able to handle this entire problem in a very much better way. Thank you so much, Monish.
Thanks, Varun. And I think you bring out very valid and pertinent points. We do take note of them, and we would be happy to continue to receive points from members. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Vibhashkar, who is a proponent from PwC towards policy. So in the chronological order, Vibhash, I emphasize not the least, but last to you in terms of the governing council members today. Over to you.
Thanks, Monish. I mean, the point that everybody has raised are the valid point. I mean, I also, like many of you have been associated with biomass sector for all through my career, starting from the biomass itself. But see, I have slightly different point of view around the power generation side. I'm more focused looking at biomass towards the thermal applications than the power generation, because power generation, you are converting it twice. You're losing energy. And also at this stage, there's no way you can compete with the existing solar and wind tariffs. There's absolutely no chance, right? But biomass in terms of thermal while you're replacing oil in any form make perfect sense. So supply chain the most and I think only crucial aspect within the entire biomass chain, within the entire biomass, linkages is the most important thing. And some of those, including you, Monish, some of the people have taken up that task, and the biomass paper that Gaurav talked about, wherein I've got input from you, I've got input from FCDO team as well. That has, one of the component is we need to look at the biomass supply chain properly. I mean, could be through a platform, and there are one or two platforms that are also have started operating. So I think it has potential, and the numbers. One day I'm going to present that paper to CBEII team as well. The numbers are astonishing, I'll tell you. I mean, you can replace entire oil if you can utilize the residue that is available, and I'm not considering entire biomass, only the residue part of the biomass. You can probably replace the entire oil that we are consuming in India. So I'm a proponent of biomass within the renewable energy, and I've worked also on the technology side. I mean, to Dr. Vibhadavan, she might not know, but I was also part of the TERI between 2008 and 10 in the biomass and renewable energy division, was working there as well. So happy to support, happy to be part of this this forum. Happy to be supporting on the cause of biomass. Back to you, Monish.
Thank you so much, Vivash. We have heard views from everybody. We are 7 minutes over time. I'm cognizant of that. I will just like to flash one slide and again request the GC members to guide us on specific points which need to be taken with central government, state government, regulators, and we would be happy to take that up. So we have written to various government stakeholders on points being brought up by the biomass industry. Some associations have come, some individuals have come, and we are taking up these calls. And the moment we write such a letter from the office, we do circulate it also for the GC members, but we would like to make this more interactive and request for pointers which the GC members would like, maybe based on their industry interactions, or would like us to take up as an industry body. We'll be happy to take note of that and take that ahead. So we are maintaining both physical and digital record of the work in terms of engagements that we are undertaking. And any point of time, if anybody would like to draw on that, it would be available. We are also endeavoring to put that on the website of CBEII, so to make the website also more interactive. We still continue with the membership drive, and we are having individuals, farmers, FPOs all coming on board. This one slide shows the structure of the membership fees, and this is where we are, and this is the barest minimum in terms of the office structure and things to move ahead. So we would keep the GC members in due course updated here as well. We will seek time for the presentation on the white paper which FCDO has got done shortly in the next month or so, and hopefully we should be able to get your August presence like everybody is here today. We will also come up with a 1-year agenda. We will circulate that earlier on email, and based on comments there, then we would take that to the executive committee and get that to be implemented. That's it from my side, and we are 8 minutes over time. Thank you so much for your
Monish,
patience.
Just before everyone leaves, can we ask everyone to turn on the camera?
Yes, I was coming to that.
And
yes, Twitter, so I was coming to that. Since yes, we are also keeping record of the meetings, we have recorded this meeting, so we would have digital records of the meeting for future GC members or EC members to draw upon. We want to have that available so that thoughts are there. So we would also pick up certain points from your initial remarks, and over the next week or 10 days, have them over the social media, LinkedIn handle and the Twitter handle of CBEII. So please allow us that. And last but not the least, I think thank you so much. This collective photograph of everybody as a full house attendance is much appreciated. So I'll request everybody to have their smiles on, please. Shilpa, I hope you got that. I think I got it, and I hope others have also got that. So thank you so much again. Thanks for your time. Have a good evening ahead, and we are available in the CBEII office for anything which needs attention. Please drop us a WhatsApp, text, call. We will be available to take our collective agenda. Thank you so much. Good evening to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.